Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, my entitled dad demands I give my new house to my stepbrother for his 18th birthday. He ends up trying to sue me. The title story starts like this. I will preface this by saying my relationship with my family has always been strenuous at best. My parents divorced when I was 8, and for the next 10 years I was passed between their houses like an unwanted visitor rather than their beloved daughter. While I expected time to heal these wounds, it only made them worse. On the morning of my 18th birthday, I was met with the sudden and horrible news that my mother had died in an accident while abroad. She had opted to go on a cruise with her new man at the time. This now left me relying on my father, who was also happily settling in with his new family, wishing to have little to do with me. That was until I bought my new house, that is after winning a small sum on the lottery that I never told a soul about. Especially my father, whom I expected would tear me apart to get a piece of it. A few blissful years of independence went by, I moved on with my life, and so did he. When he did finally reconnect, it was a surprise which quickly turned nasty when I found out its purpose. I was at the nail salon when a vibration shook me in my seat. I fumbled to get my phone out until I found out it was a missed call from my long-lost father. I left it and continued, forgetting about it until later that evening when my phone rang again. He bridged the gap of our estrangement by skipping over it, diving into casual conversation as if it were natural. He was explaining that his family were holding a barbecue soon and having a big get-together, and he was hoping I would join to give us a chance to reconnect. I hesitantly accepted but was skeptical at his intentions. Never in my life had either of my parents ever done anything for my sake or my benefit, and I expected this time would be no different. Following the directions he texted over to me, I left the neighborhood I knew behind and made for the city limits where their family resided. Over the phone, my father had really exaggerated some aspects of their house. The Marsley Manor, as he had called it, resembled something closer to a pancake than a house. Although white, its roof was lower than some famous basketball stars. I wondered whether I had gotten the directions wrong, although the makeshift parking lot across their yard and party decorations said otherwise. Following the stream of guests, I filtered through a gate into the backyard where a group of strangers mingled around the grill. One older man approached me, seemingly recognizing me first and catching me off guard in an uncomfortable hug. It was my father. The rest of the afternoon I felt defensive and uncomfortable, being pushed into a situation I wasn't ready for. I met his new wife and son, both of whom exchanged the bare pleasantries expected me of them before they left again to socialize with their own friends. When I remarked on the house, he explained that they had recently downsized, so this was not the manor he had first described. Their original plan was to go smaller after their son left for college, but this backfired when he later quit the course and then came home. He gave me the speed tour of introductions between close and distant relations on the wife's side of the family, showing me off like a prized fishing catch. I snuck out shortly after, which net me a slightly passive-aggressive text message sometime later from my would-be father. I lied, excusing myself due to sickness, which he relented and accepted later in a reply the next morning. A week later, I was returning home from getting groceries when I saw an unfamiliar car parked in my driveway with a man sitting inside. I parked on the curb a block away and walked over. I was cautious at first because if he was bad news, I didn't want him to know that it was my house he was staking out. Knocking on the tinted windows, the silhouetted man shivered, and after removing the headphones from his ear, my father emerged from the car. Reading the shock on my face, he explained that he was in the area and wanted to just pop in to say hi. When I asked how he knew my address, he gave a sly grin. As my former legal guardian, he had access to information concerning my safety and whereabouts. Obviously, this was something I was completely oblivious to. No wonder he knew my mobile phone number too. After I moved my car, I started to take in the groceries. He helped with one bag before proceeding to give himself a tour and leaving me to handle the rest of the cargo. He was amazed at my house, repeating about how rich I was, not once saying anything about being proud of me or something. I steered him towards the door as he kept remarking on how wonderful everything here was. He left without much convincing, luckily. While I expected a bit of a break, I found 3 missed calls from him that evening after I got out of the cinema. Each call was left without a voicemail as well, which I found strange but suggested it was not an emergency. As I reached home, the fourth call came and I picked up by accident while wrestling with my keys. Despite his persistence, he didn't even sound angry that I had missed his other calls. He was quite happy, if not eager, to keep me happy instead. He then started talking about him and his wife that had been struggling for space since his son returned early, making their financial situation also a little tense. When I asked what happened to the extra money they got from downsizing, I got a flash of anger when he snapped at me for asking about something that was not any of my business. A moment of silence followed before he regained his composure, apologizing before carrying on with his speech. He was then asking if I was free for his son's 18th birthday party. They were planning something pretty special. When I stupidly confirmed my lack of activity, he took that as a sign that I would be receptive to hosting the party here, although I managed to sway him off the idea. Before he hung up, he said he had an important question to ask, or a favor even. Because they couldn't afford a gift for their son, my father wanted me to help them, still assuming I was rich after seeing my house. When I tried to change his mind, he offered that I could give him the house, my house. Despite my confusion and complaints, my father refused to believe me. He thought I was being selfish and stubborn by refusing him rather than having nowhere else to go. When it was clear that I was talking to a brick wall, I put the phone down and did not hear from him again that night. I called back in the morning hoping to put wrongs right and resolve the misunderstanding. Instead, I now found I was being targeted for legal action because of last night's argument. See, where I am from in Asia, the laws regarding families are really messed up. If your parents are still seen as your legal guardians, they can take almost anything you have. Therefore, without going too far into the legal nitty-gritty details, my father basically tried to steal/repossess my house, claiming he is my legal guardian and must take care of the house I own instead. He took me to family court to take everything I have. My father had stubbornly refused to see beyond his own petty desires and decided that if I would not give him my house, then he would simply take it. I'm gonna fight him with everything I have, and the trial was a success, a flawless victory. Not only did I manage to sever the ties of a father that would rather abuse his control over me than care for me, but I also got some sweet revenge for his efforts. For his fraudulent charges, he was sentenced to a grand fine of $100,000 payable to me in damages. I guess I was a little rich now thanks to him. I'm sure I could think of a few holidays to spend it wisely. Driving by his neighborhood a few weeks later after returning from some time overseas, I found him still at the same little house, only this time a full-length trailer was parked outside. I guess that's one way to solve their problems with lack of space. And yeah, ripe stars, I gotta say, it is so horrible to think that a young person like this has such a terrible family that tries to steal OP's property. I really would not wish such a family on anyone. Either way, if you like the story so far, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even leave a comment if you want to support me. Thank you so much. And the next one is titled, Karen neighbor pretends to be building owner and locks me out. Points a gun at me when I threaten to call the cops. So I live in a rent-controlled building. I always have. I've been renting since the day I moved out of my parents' house. Some may say that it's expensive and such, but that all depends on where you go. There are a lot of places that include all the bills in the rent, gas, electric, internet, water, and so on. The other great thing about renting is that when something breaks down, I don't have to fork out of my own pocket to get things repaired. Sure, this might mean things take a week or so for it to get repaired, but it's not that much worse than when you have to sort things out for yourself. Most of the time when it comes to renting, the property is managed by the estate agents on behalf of the building's owner or is owned by the estate agents outright. My building was owned privately but managed by an estate agent, and as such there was a building manager that would come around once a month or so to inspect the building, make sure the communal areas were safe and such. The building manager would change from time to time depending on how busy the estate agents were. Their agent turnaround and such like for our building, we always had some young fresh person to the job. I don't know if it was because our building was easy to manage or that's just how the estate agents planned it, but that's how it was. So now you know that circumstance of my living situation. Let me tell you about Karen, who liked to make everyone's life a living hell for no other reason than to make her life feel better than others. Like all Karens in their natural habitat, she liked to think that she was the center of everything. She was the queen bee of the building and the estate agents always listened to her, but I get the feeling that they just want to get rid of her, so tell her what she wants to hear. She is jealous of anyone that throws little get-togethers, parties or full-blown rages. To the point where she will pretty much invite herself to the party, normally under the pretense that she's after something or just checking in to make sure everything was okay because she heard a lot of loud voices and banging and thought something was under attack. She used it on me a couple times. Karen did not like me too much because I had kids. Rumor went around the mill that she couldn't have kids because she was infertile and took it out on everyone else. I feel sorry for her because she can't have kids, but there is no excuse to take that frustration out on other people. She has reported me to the cops more than a few times as I get very excitable when I'm playing my games and can get pretty involved emotionally. Never when my two girls are around, mind, and always when their mother has taken them out to the park or whatever. There is a certain series of games that are well renowned for being super hard about going around collecting souls. So when I'm alone, I get proper into it and I'm embarrassed to say that I can act more childish than my two daughters, one of which is a toddler. Especially when I get my butt stomped. What's even worse is that Karen lives close enough that she can hear me shouting at the TV whenever my character does not roll when spamming that damn roll button. So, to my surprise, I had the cops knocking on my door saying that they had received a noise complaint from a concerned citizen and they were particularly concerned because the noise sounded quite violent and they knew that I had kids in the house. I had to reassure the cops that while yes, I did have kids, they were not in the flat and the noise was me shouting at the TV because of a certain game about darkness. The cops understood as one of them was a gamer and played the game himself. We spent about an hour conversing, sharing strats, and off they went on their way. A couple months later, Karen reports me again, the cops come around again, luckily the same guy, and this time he has to give me a warning about disturbing the neighbors. I apologize and start screaming into a pillow when I get frustrated. I knew it was Karen again, who else could it be? No one else has ever complained about my noise, just as I have not complained about their noise. We live on top of one another and can hear pretty much everything going on, and some understanding should be expected. So now that you know Karen, let me tell you about the time she locked me out of my own house. Not too long ago, I got a letter through my mailbox informing me that this Karen was the new building manager, which is strange because we don't normally get informed when there's a new building manager, it's just something that happens. The phone numbers are still the same and the fault reporting is done online. What made me suspicious was that the letters were written out by hand on college-ruled A4 paper and not typed, emailed and covered in the estate agent's logos. When I spoke to some of the other residents, they all confirmed that they found it suspect as well, so we decided to get onto the estate agents about it, but that took time, and in the weeks prior, Karen waltzed around the building like she owned the place. She would approach the residents and warn them about certain things they did about the building that Karen did not like. For example, the people at number 6 had a couple potted plants outside their door. It looked nice and welcoming, but according to Karen, they had to be removed because they attracted pests. Now, the person at number 6 politely told her to do one, which upset Karen, and she warned number 6 that she was gonna get them kicked out. Number 6 told her where to stick it, which sent Karen into a rage, to which number 6 just slammed the door in Karen's face. We all had a good laugh at that story, but this also resulted in Karen hiring security. I was pretty sure they were no more security trained than I was a foreman of a construction company. I was pretty sure they were just Karen's stooges, as I've seen them about before, hanging around with Karen, but that did not mean that they were people to mess with. These two women were the most hands I've ever seen a woman be, and they looked like they wanted to twist you into a pretty little bow. Karen had made it pretty clear that she wanted to get me kicked out of the building, a threat she had been verbal about for years. So one weekend we head to the beach for a little mini vacation with the kids. We had a wonderful time, ate lots of junk food and got real lazy. When we got back from the vacation, I found that my keys did not fit the lock. The wife found her keys didn't fit the lock either. My neighbor found their key we had given them for emergencies didn't fit the lock either. That's when my other neighbor informs me that she caught Karen with some dodgy-looking locksmith messing with my door. This was not the first time she had tried something like this. About a week ago, she tried to do the same thing to number 12 but got caught out because number 12 was still at home. I practically knocked down the door to Karen's apartment and demanded that she fixes this. She refuses and is backed up by her 2 security guards, but that's fine, I'm not one to get physical with a woman anyway. So I pull out my phone and tell Karen I'm gonna call the cops and she's gonna pay for her misbehavior. That's when the psycho Karen pulls out a gun on me and tells me that I'm doing no such thing. I've been evicted, which I knew was bullcrap as there are legal proceedings to getting someone evicted, and I tell her as such. We all know you're not the building manager, Karen. We all know, and so do the estate agents. Your time here is done. I told her and she fumed, thinking she was some sort of gangster pointing her gun at me. I must admit I was pretty fucking scared, but I was not gonna back down to this woman, and as she is waving the gun in my face I noticed that all the safety catches and mag release buttons look weird, like they were melted into the body of the pistol, and I realize it's a bloody fake or a pellet gun. Either way, knowing that the gun ain't real, I do some Jackie Chan crap and kick the gun out of her hand. I felt so badass, but I'm a middle-aged wreck of a man that hasn't exercised since I was 14, so no doubt I looked stupid. While Karen is stunned and stammering, trying to regain control of the situation, I call the police and Karen ends up getting arrested. The best thing was that I had a small CCTV camera that looked over my front door from inside my flat. It's illegal to record outside the flat in one of these rent-controlled buildings, and recorded Karen and her stooges breaking into my house and changing the locks. She ended up going away for breaking and entering, aggravated assault, and what's even worse, she got more time for posing as an estate agent than the other 2 charges. Apparently, impersonating an estate agent is a serious offense. Who would have known? And yeah, Ripe Stars, if there's one thing that power-tripping Karens love to do, it is to pretend that they have authority over people when they actually don't. However, props to OP for handling the situation the way he did.
The next one is titled, She Got Angry at My Dog. I had my first encounter today with an extremely entitled person while dog walking. I am out in the countryside in a block of forestry that is well used by dog walkers and runners. The dog is a little out in front doing what dogs do. For the purposes of this story, we will call him Angus, when I see a lady coming the other way with her dog, also off lead. And Ripe Stars, I suppose off lead means off leash? I'm not sure. Anyway, my usual procedure here is if the other dog is on a lead, I will put mine on. If not, I assume they are happy with their dog interacting with others and leave Angus off. He is a very friendly and good-natured Labrador. More importantly, he is trained. Then she starts shouting. I cannot work out exactly what she's saying, but it appears to be at me, so I opt for caution, stop and call the dog. Angus, heel. Doggy, being a good dog, about turns and heads back and sits in the heel position. Her dog, who we will call Poppy, because that is what it was actually called, is running down the track towards us. Mummy is waddling after as fast as she can. I can now start to understand her.
Put your dog on a lead. Mine is not friendly. Poppy, Poppy, come here. Poppy, sweetheart, come here. Put your dog on a lead.
Poppy is ignoring Mummy. Dog does not seem unfriendly, just a bit wary. Probably more stressed by Mummy yelling and shouting, circling around us at about 20 yards distance maybe.
You have to put your dog on lead. Mine is not friendly.
Angus has not moved. Why must I do that? He is perfectly under control, no?
Because mine is not friendly and does not like other dogs.
Poppy is still ignoring Mummy. Enough! And how is that exactly my problem? My dog is under control. He has not moved. He won't budge until I release him. Yours is ignoring you. You have no control over that dog at all. It is you that should have your dog on a lead at all times. Why should everyone else have to put their dogs on lead because you cannot be bothered to train your dog properly?
How dare you talk to me like that? It's only good manners to put your dog on a lead, and she is trained. I spent a fortune on puppy training. You still have not put him on his lead. You must do it now. You have to put a dog on a lead if asked to.
No, I don't. Where does it say that? And if it is good manners to put a dog on a lead, why don't you do it then? If she is so well trained, call her right now.
Poppy, come here. Poppy, good girl. Poppy, come here. Poppy, sweetheart, come here.
I just look at her. No words are needed. Angus heel, and we walk off. I saw her later as well as we were heading down to the car park. She was there shouting at another couple with their dog. The next one is titled, Never Steal From Me. I had to wait on this one for a minute, mainly because I wanted more info. Check my profile out if you want more info on this woman. She is such a train wreck. I know you will all don't believe she is real. Oh, how I wish it were true. She and I were childhood besties. She remarried and her husband ended up being best friends with mine. We know most of the same people, most everyone feels the same about her, and they cannot wait to spill the latest train wreck of a story. This one is another neighbor, not Reggie, who she had been caught on camera stealing from a few months back. I barely know this neighbor, I know them through someone else. I got these details from her husband, mine and the acquaintance. But all the stories except hers match pretty perfectly, so here we go. Drama Goblin hears a knock, answers the door and sees a package. A decent sized package. She is not wearing her glasses, so she brings it inside her home. When it goes into her house, it is not open. The UPS delivery guy had some sort of proof of this when spoken to by his supervisors a day later. The neighbors in question, let's call them the Conleys, also had it set up on their phones to alert them when their package had been delivered. They were both at work though. The husband Dan comes home on lunch to bring the package in the house as it was a laptop. He arrives and there is no package. Upset, he calls UPS and goes back to work. The wife Susie comes home maybe 2 hours later and starts looking around the outside of her house. She even goes over to all the surrounding neighbors, and when she is at Drama Goblin's house she knocks, however Drama Goblin does not answer. Susie can see and hear that she is home and it looks like she has company. One of her crusty drug addict friends that hangs out there constantly, I'm not being judgy but he self-identifies as crusty, he calls himself that all over his Facebook and he admits to doing meth as well. She goes home empty-handed, she decides to call Drama Goblin's husband and see if he knew anything about the package. However, he doesn't. Not long after this call, Drama Goblin's husband says Drama Goblin calls him, and at this point it's an hour before he is due home and tells him about the package. Her husband asks her what it is and she says she doesn't know, she laid it in the kitchen and never looked at it again. He asks her if it is the neighbors, she again says she does not know. He asks her to check, it was. This whole thing is shady. Drama Goblin brings the package over to the Conleys shortly after this call. They are both home and answer and see the package. Something about it does not look right. Oh yeah, it is opened and empty. Dan asks where the laptop is and Drama Goblin says she does not know. It came that way. She then bursts into tears and basically runs back home. The neighbors try to follow her and ask her questions, but she has shut down and keeps repeating that she does not know. She says she did not notice it was empty when she brought it in her home. When she all but slams the door in their face, they call her husband and they want answers. Even her own husband does not know what happened. He told my DH that when he came home, that Drama Goblin and the kids were the only ones home. That she was in the middle of a meltdown, crying and he could barely understand her. He asked her if the package arrived whole, she says she thinks it did. He asked her why she did not bring it to the neighbors, and she says she did not know it was theirs. He asked if she opened it, and she just bawls. He cannot get anything else out of her at all. He blames the pregnancy. Another time he asks why she did not bring it to them, and she says they were not home. So I know she knows more than she is saying. Well, anyway, the neighbors have filed a claim and a police report. So far nothing has come of it. It's been almost 2 months. Nothing will come of it because somehow Drama Goblin gets out of everything. I have asked her myself via text and she refuses to answer. Just straight refuses to answer any question that could clear her. She wants to whine about it and play the victim. Her kids are pretty young and maybe one of them would have opened it and carried it off. But her husband does not think so, as he has looked all over the house. I have a theory that her meth head friend took it, but Drama Goblin assured everyone he was not even there, and even if he was, he would never do that. Her reasoning? He has never done that to her. Maybe he didn't, but something happened. I think she knows way more than she is saying, so the package thief strikes again. This time, she has skirted trouble again. Damn.
And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.